The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
So, kicking things off here is the very beginning of the video. I talked about this on one of my Orange Ranger Plays videos a couple weeks ago, but this is Jadzia. Found her at work probably about a month ago now, maybe a little bit longer. No mother in sight. Decided to take her in. Became the latest stop on the cat distribution system. I named her Jadzia after a character on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. She's a little wiggle worm. You wiggle worm. You are. You want to go now, don't you? Look at them. They aren't up there. Okay, you can go. Hello again, heroes, and finally welcome to another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. I'm going to go ahead and admit something here. I'm not really liking this system I have of block of this, block of that, to balance Orange Ranger Plays and Orange Ranger videos. It has been six weeks since my previous Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review, Kamen Rider Sting. And it's not just this channel that's impacted. Orange Ranger Plays sees 2 weeks to a month between blocks of episodes over there. It's just not good for either channel. The thing is, I really can't seem to think of any kind of alternative. I love both channels. I want to keep making content for both channels. The only other method I can think of is some kind of system where individual episodes for each channel are produced near about the same time. So like one episode of Star Trek Resurgence and one Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review, so I can release one and then the other and kind of go back and forth that way. I don't really know. I know all of you heroes are very patient for these reviews, and I appreciate that. This stress is entirely my own. I will figure something out. So, let's talk about a rejected young Marine figuring something out. Last time, we saw Chris Ramirez get rejected from service in the Marines due to asthma, and then recruited by Man in Black, Xaviax, to fight aliens as Kamen Rider Sting. The biggest and baddest of those aliens, of course, being Wing Knight. The two had a fight, which Wing Knight won, but he stopped himself from venting the young man. What excitement lurks on the other side of the mirror this time? Let's take a look at the 13th episode of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, Thrill of the Hunt.
Please make sure you subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
Blah, 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 long intro, etc., but what really struck me about this one was demonstrating just how many storylines we have going at once, showcasing some of that complex writing that is kind of surprising for a kids show. We have Kit and Len trying to convince Chris that Xaviax is the bad guy. We have Drew on the run from Xaviax after trying to play everything to his advantage. And we have... what the dragon was his name again? Oh yeah, he actually says it in this intro. Brad, desperate to regain what Xaviax took from him by doing what Xaviax tells him to do because blackmail sucks. We start with Len pacing on top of a warehouse. This is kind of a mini clip show, but it serves a great character purpose. Len flashes back to fights against Thrust and Sting, and how he defeated both, but wasn't able to finish either of them off. He hears a very minor rippling sound, and looks in a nearby window. He only sees his own reflection, but then his reflection tells him that he's being weak, and that he needs to finish the job, Kamen Rider, which he repeats. Seriously, look at this! The poles going everywhere! The green thingies going up the side? In what universe is this an apartment complex? The giant freaking stairs! Okay, I'm done. Sorry. I don't remember if we've seen a picture of Kit's mother to this point, but we do now, as we see a picture of their entire little family, although Kit's dad looks oddly photoshopped into the picture. Maya is looking at this picture, and I mean weirdly staring at it and smiling, when Kit enters, telling her that Sting got away. Maya's actress really kind of drops the ball in this scene and the entire episode, to be honest with you. She's done better work this season. It just seems like she was having a bad day or something. She wonders if this means that Sting isn't really a hero. Kit says that he is a hero, he just thinks they are the bad guys. Her response, "Oh no." Seriously, that flat, just like that.
My boat.
Maya suggests that she can talk to Chris, and Kit kind of gives her this look, her shooting one right back at him. My guess is that Kit's look was something like, "Oh yeah, sure, he definitely won't be nearly as nervous around the super hot internet reporter." But then it's shimmer time. Chris reports in to Agent Simmons, Zaviax, on the phone. He says that Wing Knight and Dragon Knight were just like he described, providing conflicting intelligence. Zaviax says that's why he warned Chris. Wing Knight might seem like a dude bro, but give him an inch and he'll cut you. Chris says that he understands, and Zaviax says, "See that you do." Do what? Understand? He just said that he understands. It only gets more confusing after this. Chris hangs up, and being completely honest with you, I took 3 passes at his line, and I could not make out what he said. It sounded a little like, "except this never happened," but that doesn't make any sense. Thinking about it in terms of the script, he might have said, "I wish this never happened." Still not exactly in context, but a little more logical to the moving on.
Except this never happened. Except this never happened. Except this never happened.
Moving right along.
Chris then hears the shimmers, meaning we did the kind of back up a little bit from another perspective and then go forward thing. Though, ironically, I didn't mention when Kit and Maya heard the shimmers, Kit guessed that they were being caused by Sting. We see Chris walking up to a motorcycle in the motorcycle's rearview mirror, and for a second, I thought that he was going to use that mirror to summon the belt and transform. But no, it's his motorcycle, another motorcycle, which he gets on and leaves. We then see reporter Lady McWhat's-her-name that Maya doesn't like, and when I can actually remember what her name is, I'll be sure to pass that information along. She's being followed by a gremlin monster, I think, that emerges out from the windows. We get a really good look at it, it's just kind of hard to tell what it is. It has 3 eyes and big pointed ears. It chases after and grabs the woman, and hey, it wasn't even actually reporter lady, it was just some random lady, and tries to drag her to Ventara. Quick little aside here. Zaviax's endgame is to capture the entire human population and use them as slave labor on his world. I do kind of think I remember the reasoning for this. It's something the show goes into from time to time, but on the surface, mirror surface, Zaviax's plan seems to be proceeding incredibly slowly, just grabbing individual people here or there, and seemingly only in Los Angeles. Are people disappearing anywhere else?
Who knows? Not me. Who cares? Ditto Mark.
Dragon Knight saves the woman and she runs off. The gremlin takes off for Ventara, and Kit follows. Maya looks for them in the reflective windows, finally managing to see them at a very off angle in a reflection. The gremlin decides to defeat Kit with the power of friendship. And this gun that it found, sending Kit running. Kit runs into a narrow passage near some stairs, ducking into a side door or something, I guess, but then immediately jumping down from the top of the stairs to hit the monster with his sword vent.
I don't buy it. Means, I don't believe it. I'm not convinced.
The gremlin, maybe a monkey, is fast and acrobatic, leaping around and shooting Kit more. Kit finally gets the drop on the creature, literally again attacking from above, but seems to have lost his sword somewhere. But even close up, the gremlin monkey seems to be a better fighter. So, of course, Kit activates his final vent, and the monster very obligingly just stands there still and lets itself get blown up.
And now for something completely different.
Seriously, this was kind of a down point for this episode. Kit did not earn that win. The monster was faster and a better fighter. Kit fired off a finishing move, and suddenly the super agile monster wasn't able to dodge anymore, like it had used up all of its Soulsborne stamina bar. Kit walks behind some big metallic thing and de-transforms. It's a visual effects cheat, but we see it in Power Rangers a lot. It's fine. The release of energy knocks a pipe off of the thing. Kit looks at it and goes, cool. Grace's books. There's a little tagline logo in the upper right of the sign, which is kind of bad logo design, but anyway. It's used, new, and new age. That's actually kind of cute. Lacey shows up, clearly dreading actually going inside, but when she sees Trent, she asks him if Maya's back yet, which she is not. Basically, Lacey's worried about her. This hobby of hers, this paranormal reporter stuff, Lacey's worried that it's taking over her life. Trent says it's not just some hobby, it is her life's work, but that's Lacey's point. Remember that Lacey can't see any of the mirror monster stuff. Neither can Trent, but Trent is a believer. So everything Maya's been talking about the mirror monsters and the Kamen Riders and everything sounds crazy. And now this monster movie stunt in the park? This is not normal.
Ooh, this is gonna get good.
I had actually forgotten about this scene, but it's an early high point for Trent, and this is one of my life's mantras overall. Trent asks Lacey why Maya has to be normal. Normal people do not change the world. People like Van Gogh, Tesla, Einstein. If this had been an episode of Star Trek TNG, they would have slipped in a fake name like Noonien Soong or something. People called them crazy, but Trent wholeheartedly believes that Maya will have just as big an impact on the world as they did. In response to this stirring speech from Trent, Lacey just says that she doesn't know why she's talking to Trent in the first place. You're one of them.
Shut up. As in, close your mouth and stop talking.
And it really makes me wonder why Lacey exists as a character right now. At sunset, Kit is walking someplace. Honestly, I kind of feel like the producers of this show got rights to film at every industrial lot in Los Angeles and just divided the various scenes of the episodes up between them. He runs into Drew, Kamen Rider Torque. Full confession, at the start of this video, when I said that Len had thought about the fights against Kamen Rider Thrust and Kamen Rider Sting, I actually at first typed Torque and Sting. I really can't keep the two T names straight. Separated. Kit, of course, goes straight for his deck, but Drew insists that he's not there to fight. In fact, he's come to ask Kit for his help. Of course, he lies yet again, saying that Xaviax tricked him into believing that Wing Knight was the bad guy, and now Xaviax is after him as well. However, Kit is Toku's biggest himbo no longer, seeing straight through it. Drew got caught scamming his boss, and now wants protection. Frustrated that it didn't work, Drew says he's not going to have two people after him transforming, and Kit follows suit. Maya has wandered into yet another industrial area what is she even doing right now? And she looks into a window and sees Torque and Dragon Knight fighting. When and why did the two of them go to Ventara? This episode is just way too much people suddenly showing up in different places. Torque shoots around, but it turns out that Kit leveled up in his fight against the monkey gremlin, and his agility has increased as he avoids the blast.
Wonder Pokemon is...
Kit pulls his guard vent and actually uses the two dragon arms as the shields they're designed to be. Torque pulls his shoot vent, which Kit can block, but it's a little tougher to do so. Then we see Chris riding his motorcycle. That was a nice transition episode. Anyway, after some really melodramatic slow motion and booming echoing added to his footsteps, he walks up behind Maya, who asks him what he's going to do. And befitting the melodramatic slow motion and the booming echoing of his footsteps, he's decided that he's going to stand and watch the fight for a minute. Torque blasts Kit off the top of a building and then is right there on the ground to blast him when he lands. Seriously, there's a really easy fix to these sorts of things. Just add the in and out quick little mirror sounds. It's a good method for quick transportation. Maya asks Chris if he still thinks the Kit is an alien. He'd have absolutely no way of knowing this one way or the other, but for some reason, he says no. She tells him to get into the fight then, but he just can't trust at this point if Kit is a good guy. That disappoints Maya and makes her give another disappointing line read. Some hero you turned out to be. Torque activates his strike vent. I think it's the same big gun, but set on a smaller platform. And he does this very slowly, giving Kit the chance to do the same. Drew loses that head-to-head contest, but slips out the back during the explosion. Meanwhile, Len is riding around silos. Oh yeah, he had that big do the job moment at the start of the episode and had completely vanished until now. He runs into Brad. Honestly, I think this is two stuntmen on the motorcycles, although Len's actor is a stuntman, so... Brad really shows his backside on the bike, riding around, zipping all dangerously at stuff, and then charging directly at Len like a bull. I thought the bull was Torque. He's a rhino! The dude actually bumps the front of Len's bike. The two trash-talk at each other for a while, and honestly, even as a guy, it was a near sickening level of testosterone. The two of them practically fluttering their roosters about, shall we say. They actually let loose on the brakes and drive directly at each other for a minute, though of course not getting anywhere, before Brad turns around and takes off with Len chasing. Let's cut to another storyline. Ooh. Oh, sorry, heroes. I'm getting a little dizzy here. Drew is running from his fight with Kit, clearly not really in great shape. He finds a place to stop and rest, wisely taking a second to look around for any reflective surfaces. He laments that he had this all figured out yesterday. Considering the timescale of the episode, I highly doubt that it was literally yesterday, but maybe he's talking about like a metaphorical yesterday, and wonders how he managed to screw this up. That's right, flashback time. Let's get Drew's backstory. Drew was doing the con man thing, selling really cheap-looking knockoff flip phones, and really these things look more like flip phone toys that you might see on sale at the knockoff toy store in the mall, in the bargain bin, while trying to convince someone on the phone that his real actual cell phone, they're the greatest thing ever, even as he breaks one just by opening it. But that's interrupted by the door to his warehouse being jostled and flashlights being shown through the newspapered up windows. The police have arrived. He excuses himself from the call and quickly runs for the exit. He hops his motorcycle, but he's stopped, not by the cops, who you figure would have all of the exits blocked if they were making a raid, but by Zabiax in an SUV. He gets out of the back of the SUV. Who's driving? Anyway, he explains to Drew that he's not a cop, and in fact, he'd like to offer Drew a sales position. Drew says that this really isn't the time, but Zabiak's response is that he could always call one of those cops over here. He just has a quick question for Drew. Could he convince a man to do something that is entirely against his nature? Drew is kind of ambivalent on the question, just saying that something like that would have to pay pretty well. Zabiak says if he could convince a group of men to go to war with each other, well, he'd give him the world. Drew says he can do it, but he doesn't really like the salary. You see, this world's not really doing it for him, and considering the fact that he's having to sell the kind of knockoff flip phones you usually see for sale on a street corner, I don't really doubt that. Zabiax clarifies, not this world. He then walks into his SUV's door and speaks out to Drew through the window. That world, Ventara. He reaches out through the window and hands Drew the torque deck. Really quick, this doesn't really make sense to me. Drew's talked a couple of times about what he was promised, the strongest indication being his pick of Earth women, which, I mean, they're all going to be slaves on either Ventara or Zabiax's world. That's a little bit unclear itself, but basically they wouldn't be on Earth, so that part checks out. But I've just always gotten the impression that Drew wanted to be the king of Earth, the ruler, the emperor of Earth, and it makes a little more sense for him to want to do that, have a much better standing on Earth than be the ruler of the mirror opposite of that world. Zabiak says he can rule the world. You just established that there are at least 2 worlds, so you might need to be a little more specific on that. We end the flashback on some comedy that actually answers my question, as we pan over and see a gel newt in the driver's seat wearing a little driver's cap. Cute. We cut back to Drew in the present, who runs off again. We then see that JTC is following after. He sighs and says, "The thrill of the hunt."
All right, everyone, he said it. We can go home now. Gift bags at the door.
Seriously, that is a roll credits moment. Okay, fine, here.
Roll credits.
But it is a bad one. It is the trope. This is the kind of thing that is the reason that CinemaSins points that sin out. You do not need a character to state the title of the work in its context. The episode should be that context wordlessly. JTC is hunting Drew. Him shaking his head and smiling would have conveyed the concept of the thrill of the hunt.
Okay, dude, calm down. Take a chill pill.
Anyway, instead of chasing Drew, he walks into a silvered elevator door, which, number 1, really wasn't all that reflective, and number 2, showcases that Drew really didn't check all that carefully for reflective surfaces. I don't know if this is a cute subversion or not, but we then cut to the ripples in a metal surface showing that someone's going to walk out of it, and we expect that to be JTC. But instead, it's Kit. He rounds the corner, finding Maya with Chris, and kind of freaks out for a second, but she insists that it's okay. Chris says that he's been thinking about what Kit said, but before that can continue, more shimmeries. The 2 of them see, well, the 3 of them with Maya, I guess, see a single gel newt. And Chris asks Kit if he wants to go get that thing. Kit is excited. Maya is happy. I am hesitant because the last time we saw Chris, he was hesitant. But minor spoilers, there's no betrayal twist coming here, just a rather sudden change of heart. Maya sends them off with a "go get 'em, riders" that was just, ooh. Anyway, they ride their capsule bikes to yet another Zed-danged factory. We get kind of an awkward fight scene. This gel newt is able to use some kind of strand of goo to fly up and down, kind of like a spider. It then forms that giant shuriken weapon on its back, and maybe I should stop criticizing this show for having them fight a single grunt, as the grunt starts smacking the two of them around. The gel newts are the grunts, right? Nice ending to the fight, though. They head up to the roof, and Kit uses his strike vent. Chris uses copy vent, and they both get the dragon fist guard. Only one dragon shows up. Presumably the attack was twice as strong, but who really knows for sure? The gel newt does try to escape, but jumps and then gets vaporized by dragon fire. Neat. Kit asks Chris what now, and Chris says that he's starting to see that actions speak louder than words, so now he wants to talk to Wing Knight. Actions speak louder than words, so he wants to hear words from Wing Knight. Anyway, speaking of, he and Thrust are facing off, and Wing Knight is clearly more down to business here. He doesn't respond to Thrust's fight banter at all, just summoning his sword and getting to it. So hey, how's Drew doing? I am getting whiplash. Somebody help. This is a little bit specific of a note even for me, but Drew runs past a stack of old computer monitors, and then we see the reflective ripples in them. But it's one circle that travels across 4 monitors instead of one little circle in each. I just found that weird for some reason. JTC finally catches up, telling Drew that there's nowhere that he can hide. Drew wants to talk, but JTC says he's not going to talk his way out of this. Which is a shame, because he's pretty sure that he can't fight his way out of this either.
Oh, snap.
The two pull out their decks and start to transform. I paused the episode and said, this is where it ends. And lo, was it so. Thus, let us partake of these cards. Episode 13, Thrill of the Hunt. Pros, a lot of action. Xaviax's standard pro, and a creative structure. Cons, episode jumps around way too much. Maya's acting takes a serious step back, and too many factories. This episode is a rare step back for the series, but one that I think it was due for, as I'll explain. Thrill of the Hunt gets 2.5 cards out of 5. Remember Backhanded Pros? Yeah, this is one of those. Give it credit, this episode moves around to a lot of different action, and that's not all just straight up fighting. There's some posturing, getting ready to fight. Every scene is exciting in some kind of way. Do we want to go ahead and just make the second pro the official Xaviax's Awesome spot? A shining beacon in this series, and can almost save even episodes like this one. His scene with Drew was just classic Xaviax, knowing exactly how to play anyone, even a con man that plays other people, to get what he needs. Just so good. I had commented before on the whole formulaic situation where we get a writer introduced in an episode named after them, and then in the next episode we get their backstory. It was a nice little twist with Torque to have him around for a while first, let the audience get to know him while he's deceiving Kit, and then get his backstory now that that little arc is done. I really think it makes it more satisfying in this particular case, just because his backstory fits what we know of him so well. So, at the start of the review, I praised the fact that the show has a lot of simultaneous storylines going on right now, and the first pro is that there's a lot of really good action. Here is the back of the hand, heroes. This is one of those episodes that just jumps around way too much. Drew, to Kit, to Chris, to Brad, to Len, to Maya. We even get a Trent and Lacey scene in there for some reason. It really was just narrative whiplash. One of these storylines needed to wait for a later episode. Sometimes an actor just has a bad day. Maya is played by Yvonne Arias, who was credited as Arya Alistar at the time, and I promise you, despite the fact that this was her last acting job, she's now in real estate, there are plenty of points in the series where she is not this bad. But for it to actually warrant me even mentioning as a con, you know, having a bad day isn't really even that great an excuse, because episodes are usually shot over several days, kind of piecemeal scene by scene, so maybe just a bad director for this episode. Just, she had so many flat line reads. Just, ugh. This show has had some interesting location shots. Len's fight against those two monsters when he was not transformed in that park with that fountain, that comes to mind. And again, this might be something that's been going on the entire time, and it was just bad enough in this episode for me to notice, but this episode was just factory after industrial yard, after construction site, after water treatment plant. Just the same type of location over and over and over again, to the point that sometimes I wasn't sure whether characters were in the same place or not. In the end, as I mentioned earlier, this is the type of episode I don't think a show like this can really avoid. They clearly wanted an episode structure where you have storylines that last multiple episodes, but they're structured in a way where they overlap but each have their own distinct arcs. For example, meeting Kamen Rider Thrust while we still had Kamen Rider Camo. Camo gets vented, Thrust's story continues, etc., etc. But eventually you've just got too much going on at once. I think they took it just one little step too far here. Let's see if they tone it back in the 14th episode of Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, Zabiax's Promise.
After a big battle, JTC continues hunting Drew, while Chris finally makes up his mind about Len and Kit.
And that is going to do it for another Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much, as always, for watching, and again, for being patient while I did Star Trek Resurgence and managed to drag myself back over here to put out more Kamen Rider Dragon Knight episode reviews. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button down below, and while you're down there, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this episode and my review of it. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel. You can see all my videos. Ring the bell so you get notified whenever I post brand new videos. And if you'd like to lend any financial support towards the channel, you can check me out on Patreon, Ko-fi, Teespring, where you can get an Orange Ranger video shirt just like this. You can hashtag Cash App me. I know all the cool lingo, kids. You can Cash App me at hashtag Orange Ranger videos if you want to send a little one-time donation. Or check me out on snacksforgamers.com/OrangeRangerPlays. Grab some candy. That gives me support really more for that channel. But hey, if you want to do that for me over here, cool. Send me a note if you can when you're purchasing the candy or the snacks or whatever you get to let me know that you saw it on Orange Ranger videos instead. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Following after her and emerging from a... I might need to get a water out. Maya asks Chris if he still thinks if Kit is an alien. I don't doubt that. We cut back to Drew now, and Chris uses... which is a shame, because he doesn't think he can fight his way out of this.